Hi, I'm Dr. Sabrina Dent, Director of the BJC Center for Faith, Justice, and Reconciliation. And I'm joined by my friend and colleague, Dr. Anthony Pinn, from the Center for Engaged Research and Collaborative Learning. Dr. Pinn, welcome.
Thank you. It's always wonderful to chat with you.
Yes, so I'm so excited because our two organizations have gotten together to put together this incredible program and symposium that we're calling the Religious Freedom Mobile Institute. And so I'm so delighted because this is a very timely and important conversation. And so what we're doing is just giving everyone a little bit of context and information about what's going to happen on October 26th and 27th. I'll just set the foundation for our conversation together to tell people more about the Religious Freedom Mobile Institute. So the Religious Freedom Mobile Institute is a 2-day virtual symposium that brings together advocates, clergy, seekers, community leaders, activists, and organizers that are committed to really engaging together in a personal and very public discussion that we're calling Disbelief, Reimagining the Religious Landscape of America. This conversation is open to everyone to join and to attend. They can register on Eventbrite. But I find it very powerful that this conversation will touch on a lot of topics that impacts Black non-theists as well as Black religious communities. So Tony, I would love to hear your perspective on this conversation that we're going to be hosting, as you have defined it as an unusual conversation amongst our community. Can you say more about this time together?
Well, you would think that this sort of conversation has taken place, right? That folks have addressed the elephant in the room, but not so. Right. To my knowledge, this is the first effort to bring together Black theists and Black non-theists to have a productive conversation, not gotcha moments, not how do we learn enough to be able to counter their arguments, but really to appreciate what's being said and to understand difference, not as a problem to solve, but an opportunity to kind of get a sense of what's actually taking place within theistic communities, what's actually taking place within non-theistic communities, with the premise being that we're all good people trying to make a difference. And how do we do this in ways that respect our differences, but also acknowledge our points of commonality? Again, you would think that this has been addressed, particularly over the past several decades, because the number of Black folks who claim no particular religious tradition has radically increased. And folks aren't silent about this anymore. They're not just hiding out in churches. That Black folks are developing organizations that are non-theistic in orientation, but provide them with other ways of making life meaningful. So non-theism is alive and it's vocal, it's vibrant. But again, this is the first time that folks have come together and tried to have conversation across these lines. And I think one of the things that motivates us to do this now is just the state of our social world. Post-Trump, we have faced types of trauma that require collaboration and cooperation. Churches can't fix this alone.
Look.
Non-theists can't fix this by simply critiquing churches, right? It requires a different type of approach, a different type of conversation, a different language. And this symposium provides us with an opportunity to wrestle with those sorts of things.
Yes, Dr. Pinn, that's so powerful, because I think about this, right? The question that comes up for me is, how do we hold our entire community in care? When we see the atrocities that are happening, when we see that voting rights are being undermined, when we see that healthcare is also being impacted in communities of color, and especially in the Black community, how do we hold our community in care? And as you talked about, you said humanism, right, is out there, that people are having these conversations. They're being bold about their identities. Even I, a person who falls in the unaffiliated category, is someone that wants to have these healthy That's the key. Healthy conversations about how do we coexist? How do we care for one another? And what does that look like? Because we can't just have the dialogue. We actually have to move towards action and doing something in the community. So I'm excited because, you came to me and said, hey, let's do this. And I was like, yes, on board, because it takes the collaborative effort of both communities, of all communities, to do this work. And we've invited some incredible speakers to join us on this journey. And so I just want to highlight some of the individuals that will be presenting during this conference. So we have individuals such as Dr. Chris Cameron, who is a brilliant scholar down in North Carolina. And then also we have Reverend Dr. Ebony Marshall Turman that'll be a part of this presentation, and Candace Gorham, who's doing incredible work in mental health. What does it mean to you that we have people from different disciplines, including museum education with Dr. Teddy Reeves, that are a part of this critical moment to have this discussion? What does it mean to you to see this happen across disciplines?
It's vital. It is vital. Black communities are complex. They are layered, thick, and contradictory. And so you need to have a conversation that reflects that thickness, that reflects that complexity, Dr. Dent. That is extremely important. And to build a different way of thinking about ourselves and thinking about ourselves in relationship to the world requires a set of tools. You can't build a house with just a hammer. And so we cannot have this conversation and make it productive, allow us to re-envision ourselves in the world and what it means to be in the world, looking at it simply through one lens. So this multidisciplinary process, this multidisciplinary group of scholars allows for a really rich, robust, and complex conversation. And I think what's going to be important for us is early on to dismiss some of the assumptions, some of the poor thinking concerning these two communities. One, to move away from the assumption that religion is the Black community, right? Mm-hmm. Dr. C. Eric Lincoln, some time ago, provided a statement that continues to live, but it's a misperception. He argues that the Black church is the Black community, right? And so one of the assumptions that has to be dismantled is this assumption that to name the Black church is to name the Black people, because it leaves folks like you and me out. Right. So we've got to move beyond that. We also have to move beyond the assumption held by so many that if you don't believe in God, you can't be moral and you can't be ethical. Steve Harvey is wrong. Right? That you can be a non-theist and be morally centered and ethically committed to well-being, right? So these are some of the kind of assumptions that have to be eradicated in order for us to really rethink ourselves in productive and useful ways.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you raised that, because I'm glad that we have faith leaders that have been willing to join this conversation to say, even Reverend Lamar, his title suggests that, we're not enemies. And I think that is so important for people to realize that we're not enemies. There is space for all of us. And we have to learn how to hold one another in care, because at the end of the day, these policies are not asking us what we believe, right? These policies that are being written and targeting our communities. And so it's so important that we're doing the critical work. I'm curious to know, what are you most excited about from this conversation that will happen in this 2-day period? 2 days of listening and learning together and thinking together. What are you most excited about?
I think one of the things that excites me most is the way in which we've been able to incorporate the arts, that there is something about the conversation, there's something about the kind of work we need to do that is reflected in the arts.
Yes.
Right. And I think that's extremely important. So the ability to partner with the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture gives us an opportunity to have conversation, to think this in complex ways that appreciate the aesthetic dimensions of what we're trying to do. Absolutely. That we are a creative people, and that creativity comes into play in these sorts of conversations as well.
Yes. And so now, so the fact that you mentioned that, I do want to highlight the fact that, yes, we have partnered with the Smithsonian, the National Museum of African American History and Culture, and we will actually be showing one of the first virtual screenings of the movie God Talk. And so I think this is so powerful because this film is exploring the lives of 7 Black millennials and looking at the challenges and the discoveries with faith in the 21st century. And it's the first feature film that they have done as a museum in partnership with the Pew Research Institute. And so I think it's so powerful that people see the examples. And here's the funny thing, right? We see it in our daily lives, but it's something about the arts and movies, right? When we sit down and actually watch and really critically think through what we're seeing and engaging in the information about like how we show up in our lives. And so I'm so excited about this film that will be screened at this event, and people have the opportunity to join us. They can register to attend the symposium for 1 day, 2 days, as well as for the screening. And at the same time, they can go online to Eventbrite and learn more about the program and all the different presenters that will have joining us for this conference. Again,
Yeah.
I'm so excited about it.
It's fantastic. And I think one of the things that this film will help us to do is to humanize ourselves, right? That there's something about this film that uses autobiography as a way to humanize, right? To kind of see the people behind the ideas. And if we can keep that in mind over the course of the symposium, we can really get some work done, right? Because we have humanized each other. There's something about us that speaks to this kind of commonality of being. And if we can ground the conversation in that, we're in good shape.
Yes, we are. And I think those are great words to close on in terms of this conversation. Dr. Pinn, I cannot thank you enough for partnering with us at the BJC Center for Faith, Justice, and Reconciliation on this incredible and important event, and for trusting us to be conversation partners in doing this meaningful work together of reimagining the religious landscape of Black America. So thank you so much. And I encourage people to go online to check out the Center for Engaged Research and Collaborative Learning and the incredible work that they're doing at Rice University. It's so important that we're looking at the information that our partners provide as well as we continue to do the good work to move humanity forward in ways that celebrate all of us and what we call at BJC, really celebrating faith freedom for all.